Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. We're back with a little Conan Exiles Age of Calamitous mod. In this video we will be discussing possibly the most frustrating adversary that Age of Calamitous brought to the exiled lands, the Alarican Plague. If you learn anything from this video, please leave a like and subscribe to find your way back for more Conan content. Now, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over in depth what the Alarican Plague is, but if you don't know, it should become clear through the tests I'm going to run. And I'll leave a link in the description for the AOC gameplay guide, which goes in depth on the subject, and you'll be able to read more about it there. Now, suffice it to say, most of us have dealt with the plague, usually the hard way, dying to it, losing a few hard-earned thralls in the process. You get caught off guard fighting a mob of plague wolves or scourge reapers, and then you die, and watch as your thralls stand in that cloud, continuing to fight and melting away. It's a very frustrating but valuable lesson. Mind your surroundings, and you won't come back to dead thralls. But what if I told you there was a way to mitigate the plague to the point that your thralls can heal through it using only food, or that you could easily heal through it with magic? Would that interest you? Alright. First off, I want to be clear that this video will contain spoilers for the Underworld dungeon rewards, so if you do not want that dungeon spoiled, feel free to click away now. Secondly, I don't know if this is some well-kept secret and I'm just the last to know, or if it's something no one has tested, but I have been unable to find any additional information to confirm the rumors that this is even possible, but we're going to test out some stuff and verify the validity of the rumors, highlight a few items that are now more relevant than ever before, and showcase a couple of builds that I put together for you to try out. So, without further ado, let's go break the plague. So, the first thing I want to do is a little demonstration here. This is what I would consider a plague mob. These are plague scourge worms, plague worms, whatever you want to call them. You find them in Bobby's Sanctuary, and when they die, like all plague enemies, they release a plague cloud. So I'm going to show you what that plague cloud looks like. I want to kill that guy. So whenever a plague NPC enemy dies, this green cloud gets released. If you get into this cloud, you start burning, and it ticks up fairly quickly. I'm already at 4. Now I'm at 5, and as it ticks up faster, look at how fast my health drops. And then it resets to 10 there. That actually might kill me. So that took me all the way down to very nearly dead. So that's what we're dealing with, is if you step away from the plague and then step back into it, even on accident, that plague, the timer resets back to a full 10 seconds. So you have very little hope of surviving in a plague cloud. Alright, so what can we do about it? The primary method for dealing with the plague, according to the gameplay guide in the Age of Calamitous Discord, is avoidance, which is a great strategy if you can avoid it, but there are instances where you can't get out of the plague. If you get attacked by scourge reapers and you have to fight your way out, a lot of times you'll have to kill one before you kill the other one, and then you have to fight in a plague cloud. Or if a scourge rabbit sneaks up on you and you don't notice, you can get out of that one, but you usually start right in the middle and it hurts pretty bad. But the game offers some solution in the form of companions mostly. So some are faction pets like Eldred Sutton, the Grunt Follower, and the Servant. Others are craftable at the Volcanic Forge like the Devil Bear Pet, the Scourge Hound Pet, and the Scourge Mammoth. And others are quest rewards such as the Zynorus Pet, which you get for completing the Underworld dungeon. You get the ability to craft this guy. And the mount, there's even a mount that you can buy with guild tokens. So there are some options from a follower, from a companion standpoint. But what about the player? We don't have a whole lot of options right now. The Orb of Plague is a Cold Embrace craftable that when you interact with it, it will give you a buff that if a plague stack lasts 10 seconds, the Orb of Plague knocks all the stacks that are on you off every 8 seconds. So Essentially, it's a 20% reduction to the plague, but it doesn't exactly work like that. It's going to knock all the stacks off at a set time. There's a couple of drawbacks to that other than it just being faction locked. If you don't know blood magic, this will overload you if you interact with it, just like one of the orbs that you use to attune to magic out in the wild. They will, and it'll kill you. If you do know blood magic, but you're not maxed out on blood magic, it's a 33% chance. There's a 1 in 3 chance that you're going to get the plague resistance. The other two options, there's 3 options that it rolls for. The other 2 options are bad. One kills you, and one takes your stats all the way. It gives you a debuff on all of your stats for, I believe it's an hour. So both of those are pretty bad. So I'm going to leave that up to you, whether you think that a 20% plague reduction is worth the drawbacks. It does make a very nice base decoration piece. The other options that we have are the Ring of Erevash, which the drawbacks to this are that it's sub-faction locked. Not only do you have to be Felgarth, but you have to be Stormcaller. So only one sub-faction can make this ring. It is craftable. It's expensive to craft, costing, I believe, 320 earth gems plus various other AOC items. And then it only has a 200 durability. So this takes your armor slot, your hand armor slot. So it can also be put on a Thrall, which is nice. That takes the durability out of play. What this does is it behaves very similar to the Orb of Plague, except that instead of every 8 seconds, it knocks the stacks off every 4 seconds. So that's a significant increase. It's certainly more viable than the Orb. However, it's still not enough to keep you alive if you want to face tank a Plague Cloud and still fight in there. You're probably still going to die. The intention of this is to give you time to get out of the Plague. All of the Plague stuff is geared towards getting you out of the Plague. So this is probably the best item that players can use at this moment. The other one here is called a Ring of Immunity. It does what it says it does. It makes a player or a Thrall immune. The drawback of this is that you cannot craft it. You cannot find it in the world. It doesn't drop from a boss. It is non-existent in the world. It lives in the admin panel. The only way you can get one of these is if your admin gives you one. Now, that's going to really depend on the climate of your server. If your admin are really sympathetic to you losing a whole lot of thralls in the plague, they may toss you one. They may use this as an opportunity to put together a PvP contest, and the ring goes to the winner, or some other event or something. But these are relatively rare in the wild for most servers, so I would not expect to be leaning on this as your primary plague defense. What these are, these red orbs, are metamorphosis. There are faction pets and profession pets that exist beyond the ones that we have here, and those ones are not plague immune. What these do is they give you an opportunity to make them plague immune. They cost, I believe it's either honor or loyalty for the faction pets, and it's guild tokens for the profession ones. But this is another way to make your pets plague immune. So that's all well and good. Those are our options for dealing with the plague. It's mostly avoidance. But this wouldn't be much of a video if I was talking about stuff that was, 4 or 5 years old that we knew about. So what are we talking about? Well, let me show you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kill this worm, and I'm going to stand in the plague. So it's going to give off the same one plague cloud that I got before that nearly killed me. But as you can see on the left side, the stacks fall off about every 1 second. And if you look at my health bar, am I losing health? Yeah. But I'm taking 4 damage every tick. And it's staying at 4 damage every tick. So what this is doing is this is really handcuffing the plague, because the strength of the plague is in its stacks. If if you allow the plague to have enough time to stack 4, 5, 6, 10 stacks on you, you're going to die. But if you can mitigate how often those stacks are wiped off, you're not going to have any issue. What did I lose? 40 health, less, just over 40 health in that stack, or in that whole plague cloud. So that begs the question: how am I doing that? And I will show you. The key to surviving the plague is quite literally survival. Somewhere along the lines, I'm assuming in the Underworld update, but I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on that, the developer snuck in a hidden perk. And once you hit your max level survival, these numbers are a little bit flexible, and we'll get into that too. Once you get up to right around the lowest I was able to test it at was 71. Right here I'm at 73. But the lowest number that the stacks would fall off like that I was able to get to was 71. So between 71 and 75 is where you want to aim for your survival perk, and that will greatly mitigate the plague, as evidenced by that last demonstration. Now, what that's done is it's made it so some items that were previously overlooked, vanilla and otherwise, both vanilla and AOC items, like, for example, the Staff of Soladium that I'm holding here is a very nice staff. I like the staff a lot. I was actually using it in the underwater cavern because it's a great light source. It's as bright as the Felgarth orb. So this staff is great. I've liked this staff for quite a while. I just could never bring myself to use a survival buff because everything else was so much more relevant. So what that's done is it's brought some interesting things back into the fold, or brought some things to the fold. This Azaharian armor set is also part of the Underworld rewards. You can craft this at the Shrine of the Harbinger Blood Magic Altar, and it gives you, the full set gives you a plus 10 to survival. Now, what I'm using right now are the Elixir of Ingestion, the Warpaint of Determination, and this orb is the Orb of Faith. This is a Elvenor faction item. So if you're Elvenor, you have access to this. All three of those give plus 3. If you don't have access, well, you have access to the Elixir of Ingestion, but if you don't want to make it, you can also use the Witch's Brew, which does a plus 3 to survival as well. Now, both the Staff of Soladium and the Elite Staff of Azius are a plus 12 to survival. The Pristine Kahari Sword is a plus 3 to survival and a plus 3 to strength. So this helps get back a little bit of what you might have lost while you were speccing to be plague immune, or we'll call it heavily plague resistant, because you're not technically immune, you do still take damage. But this helps with that because you get some of that strength back. The other one is the Unintelligible, which in an encumbrance build helps because it's plus 2 encumbrance and plus 2 survival. So these two weapons, I put them in here just to show that there are some vanilla options that can help get back some of the points that you have to put elsewhere, that you have to bury into survival to get to where you need to be. The other interesting thing that I found is this Asura set, which drops. You'll need to use legendary repair kits to repair them, because I don't believe this is a craftable set. But it drops in Sinner's Refuge. And the hood, chest guard, gloves, leggings, and boots equal out to a plus 15 survival. So if you're willing to give up, if you normally wear light armor, it's not really giving up anything. This is a very good light armor option. All of these have the Knight's Plating on them, which is a Stormhold. I'm not sure if it's a sub-faction item or not, but I know it is a Stormhold item. But I wanted to use the best armor the best armor improvement available, because regardless of survival, your armor rating will play into how much damage you take from the plague. Armor rating equals damage mitigation. Damage mitigation equals less damage. That's just how that works. So when you have less armor, like for example the hood, this armor set, I think with these Knight's platings on them, caps out at just under 600, which isn't super high, but it'll still get the job done. The primary thing that I found, the thing that I like the best, is the Mask of the Witch Doctor. It's a vanilla item. It's pretty rare. It can be dropped. It's a rare drop from Darfari Witch Doctors. The alchemist spawn in the summoning place. So if you're able to get him to spawn, kill him maybe a bunch of times until it drops. This gives a plus 10 to survival. So you got a plus 10 on one piece of armor, which is very nice. So you're going to get, if you replace that with the Azaharian armor, you're going to get a plus 18 from your armor and a plus 12 from your staff, which that's plus 30 right off the bat. So those items are items that I've found that I think are going to come in handy, knowing what we now know about survival. So that's the hidden perk, and once I did some testing on my own on that perk, I had a discussion with some members of the dev team, and after discussing the mechanic with those dev team members, they let me know that it is intended. This isn't a bug. However, it's not currently as balanced as they intended it. It's working to mitigate the impact of the plague, which makes it usable in its current state, but it's not quite where they want it. I imagine they're going to balance it in future updates once they land on a number that's giving players a good value for the points that they're spending in their skill tree to get there. That being said, this video is showing the information and the numbers that we have as of the date of its posting. So right now we're looking at 71 to 75 being extremely high plague resistance. We're not going to call it plague immunity because that's not what it is, but it is very close. What we didn't talk about was thralls. So being that the rings can be worn on the thralls and that they do benefit from that, and that they also have a survival attribute, it got me thinking. I wonder what we can do with some old vanilla friends that, once again, were never really used. So I went out and I grabbed a Cannibal Brute. The reason I liked the Cannibal Brute is because he is a Darfari fighter. He's the best Darfari fighter available. Obviously, that's not saying much. They're early game boss type characters is what they're supposed to be. But the important thing about the Darfari is that when they are placed as a thrall, they have 30 survival at level 0. So we can level a Darfari fighter up in the survival perk very easily. There's currently no food that gives survival. According to the Conan wiki, the lasting feast was supposed to be a survival food or something, but it's not working as intended, or it's not working which is intended. Maybe I don't know what's going on with that. I will never pretend to understand Funcom, but there's not currently a survival food, so you have to kind of hope for perks. And this is the first time I'm ever going to call this a benefit. But vanilla thralls, because this was a very frustrating part of leveling thralls, trying to get the right perks, right? Everybody remembers that. But it being a benefit here in that getting a survival perk is no longer a bad thing on a vanilla thrall, because it's going to increase its plague immunity, right? So this Cannibal Brute, he's a level 20. He's all perked out. He did not get any survival perks. He started at 30, but had a 100% growth chance in survival, so that landed him at 62. Currently he's a plus 13 because I have the Elixir of Ingestion buff on him, and I have the War Paint on him, as you can see there. When he... No, he's plus 16. His buff ran out. Alright. So he has a plus 16 right now. When he gets the staff out, he should be at... He's at 90 survival. So what I'm going to do with him, and this is going to be the Thrall Testing portion. I have a Cannibal Brute, I have a Beastmaster Tiemos, and I have a Tier 5 Age of Calamitous Stormhold soldier. These guys are all in the same armor. They all have the same food. They all have the same weapon. Everybody has... He's got a fireball on him for some reason, but I will, before I test these guys, I will give them the same buffs as I've got the Cannibal Brute here. So what we're going to do, we want to follow. So we want him to follow, and Hosav's going to tell us about his health. Alrighty, we've got the Cannibal Brute in the arena here with some worms. We're going to turn him loose and let him fight these guys and see what happens to these plague clouds. So we're really going to do nothing? Just, okay. There we go. We're doing something now at least. Alright, so he's got 2 of them dead. And you can see he's stacking up to 2, 4. He's fighting this last one, but you can see down on the right there, his stacks are falling off. He's going up to 5 now because there's 3 stacks on him. It just stacks faster the more that are there, obviously. But what he's doing, I don't have a heal down right now. He is more or less out healing 4 or 5 stacks of plague with just his food. So that was pretty interesting to find out. Now, I'm not saying this test certainly doesn't stand as a reason for you to go out and stockpile a bunch of Cannibal Brutes. I do not think that it's a viable thrall in the world of Age of Calamitous. It's just not very strong. From any real perspective. He's fully leveled and he only has less than 5,000 health. But what it did do is serve as a good benchmark for proof of concept on this test. Now, I'm gonna skip Tiemos for a second, and we're gonna do the same test. We're gonna do the same test with this Stormhold soldier. He's also fully leveled. He's got his war paint on, and I just put the buff on him. So this guy, with his staff out, is going to be 28 survival. So we're gonna see if that does us any good. Alright, we've got 3 worms spawned in. I'm going to set him loose. And much better fighter than the Cannibal Brute. He's already got 2 of them dead, but he's standing in that fog, and as you can see on the bottom right, he is not clearing stacks at all, and his health is suffering immensely for it. He still has another worm to fight that hasn't died yet. So he's sitting at 10 stacks. Now he's just standing here in 10 stacks. And I'm gonna make sure that he keeps his staff out. 10 stacks, just tick, tick, tick the whole time. And as these stacks start to clear off, it should be finally clearing off here. he has had 10 stacks on him the whole time that was running, and that left him, he took 7,000 damage, over 7,000 damage from those 3 worms, which would have killed the Cannibal Brute. So the reason he didn't die is because he has a higher armor rating, I believe. He does have a 13, almost a 1400 armor rating. We can go check that against the Cannibal Brute and see what he had. But I don't know that I would trust that Thrall in a fight anywhere that has a constant plague, whereas the Cannibal Brute actually had higher armor. Interesting. The Cannibal Brute might be able to survive like in Bobby Sanctuary, where you are actually just fighting those worms, and he can heal through those plague clouds. The Thrall that interests me the most here is Beastmaster Tiemos. Of all the vanilla Thralls, Beastmaster Tiemos is the only one that I would consider close to being relevant in Age of Calamitous. As you can see, this one was able to spec out at just over 9,000 health, but I have seen these guys get up to 15,000 health if you give them the right food and you level them the right way. Again, I was trying to use a leveling food for survival that didn't work. I would have probably leveled this guy on vitality had I known at the time that leveling food was not working. So his stats would have come out a little bit better, in all likelihood, on the vitality side. He did end up with 40 survival. Tiemos is nice because he starts at 15 survival, so it gives us a little bit of a head start on getting up to where we need to go. 40 plus 16 is obviously only 56, so we've got to buff him so that he'll survive. Again, we're looking for that 70 to 75 number, 71 to 75. And what he's got now is 59 plus 12 will be 71 when he has his staff out. So yeah, 40 plus 31, that's 71. So once again, all the stacks should just fall off of him. And what, like I said, what's nice about Tiemos is that if leveled correctly, he can fight alongside most of the lower level AOC, like the tier 5s and 6 AOC thralls. But adding a thrall like that is almost an AOC thrall, giving him essentially plague immunity, makes a very strong case for him as a thrall. Alrighty, we're back. We got 3 worms, and we're going to set Tiemos loose here. And see how he does. Alright, that got their attention. And he's going to do it the worst way possible, killing them one at a time. Oh, he got 2 of them. Okay. So, as you can see down in the bottom right corner, right above the mini-map there, we're ticking up to 3, and then it's falling off. And now we're going to 4 because there's 3 stacks on him. And the same with me. I'm ticking up to 4 as well. Tiemos is at 10 because I didn't keep his staff out. So it is important with your thralls. Sustained fighting is going to keep them alive because they will put their weapons away. So you have to make sure you, whenever they put their weapon away, you got to babysit them a little bit. But he mostly healed through that. He took 1,000 damage, and that's my fault because I missed him dropping his weapon. So in a sustained fight where he doesn't put his weapon away, he's going to be able to heal through most of that, depending on how many stacks are on him. I don't think he's going to die to it, but of the 3 thralls that we've tested, I think Tiemos is the most viable in this capacity. So that's going to conclude the Thrall testing. I think those are all positive results. The ability to put thralls in weapons and armor that give them a natural resistance. I guess it's not really a natural resistance, but it gives them a passive resistance to the plague. That could be something that is a very big deal. So, for the last part of this video, I am going to go over 3 player builds that I came up with. So I'm going to cut them in here at the end of this video. Alrighty, the first loadout that I want to talk about is one that I'm calling the Scourgelord. It's a fighter, and it is intended to be grouped with other players. None of these builds are going to be great standalone, except for potentially one. You're gonna want thralls. You're gonna want other players around you, but a group of these would be pretty powerful, I would imagine. I have not personally brought these out and tested them. These are just theory crafting. So what I've done with this guy is I gave him the Mask of the Witch Doctor and the 4-piece Asura set. And then for weapons, I gave him the Pristine Kahari Sword and the Elite Tempest Shield. So what's nice about the Tempest Shield is that it gives an agility buff. So it's going to help mitigate the loss of armor rating that we're giving up by using this lighter armor set. And we're using Wilderness Stew as our food. We're using Pure Aloe Extract as our heal, Elixir of Ingestion, and War Painted Determination. So our stat line is going to look something like this. We end up at 40 strength because of the sword. We end up at 30 agility because of the shield. We have perk 3 in vitality, which is important. 2 in accuracy as a dump stat because we had 2 points left over. 3 in grit, which gives us our stamina pool, and it gives us natural resistance to damage. Encumbrance is also kind of a dump stat. I just wanted to get as much in there as I could reasonably so that you can carry some stuff around. Your loadout's not very heavy, but it gives you 366 pounds to work with. And then we put 40 into survival, with the remaining amounts coming from the upgrades and our stat boosts. So that gets us to that 71 number on survival. And I suppose we can go out here and verify that it works. We'll fight a worm and the vanilla weapons are not the strongest, but there we go. We watch the left side of the screen there. The Alarican Plague just ticks away. 1, 2 gone, 1, 2 gone. So, like I said, as a group build, maybe with a mage as a thrall, somebody to deal a little bit more damage, this could be a viable build. Alrighty, and the second build we're going to take a look at, and my personal favorite, calling the Plague Doctor. This is a healer build, so it is intended to be used in a group with your friends or a group of thralls. The loadout is the Mask of the Witch Doctor. Whatever armor you want for this one, I am using an accuracy armor because this is also a it's a light heavyweight armor class is what it's called, lightweight heavy armor. So you have the light armor bonus, or the light armor designation with the armor rating of a heavy armor. So you're going to be pretty tanky in this. That's what I like the Highborn Crescent for. This is Elven Covenant. the Silver Coven sub-faction. So that's the armor we're using, and you can use either the Staff of Caladium or the Elite Staff of Vazaeus. I don't want to use it just because I can't say it. Again, we are using the Warpaint Determination. We are using the Elixir of Ingestion, Wilderness Stew, and Pure Aloe Extract. This build doesn't really require a heal because you are a healer and you should keep your heals up. The other thing is we are using the Attunement of Faith from the Orb of Faith. That is, to use this build, you will need that. But the attributes are stack up like this. We have 2 in Strength, that's our dump stat. 20 Agility, which just gets us a little bit of additional armor rating boost. It's nice to be able to sprint around, and the falling damage is nice, but this is here for the armor rating boost. Vitality, we took it all the way up to perk 4, which the Receptive increases the healing effect of consumables and dancers. I don't know that actually applies to my heal spells, but we're going to try it out and see. Accuracy, we got it at 20, and that's why we use this armor, is because it's a plus 12, so it gets us to a 32 accuracy, which is reasonable. Gets us to our range and thrown weapons damage being 10% or more. 30 grit, again, that's for the stamina pool and for the natural resistance to damage. Encumbrance, we're up to 20, that gets us 450 encumbrance, and then we are at 40 survival plus 33. Now, if we needed to, and you can't get the Orb of Faith for some reason, you can take the Vitality down to the 3rd perk and redistribute some points, put 5 more points in survival, maybe 5 more points in accuracy. You're not dealing a ton of damage with this build, but having some in accuracy is nice. So that might be an alternative way to build this, is to go perk 3 Vitality and then 45 in survival and 25 into accuracy. So we'll go kill a worm, as the theme of the video has become. That's kind of cool. The passive effects of the staff, that's the heavy attack on this. Alright, and in the plague we stand, and it's just doing its thing, clearing that plague off as quickly as it can stack up. So again, with this build, you are looking to be a support role, heal your team. So that's where having some plague immunity can come in handy. It will allow you to get in and maybe save some of your team members who are stuck in the plague or something like that. So I actually like this build. I might run this one for a little while on my server here. Alright, the final build that I want to showcase, I'm calling the Plague Farmer. This build is for solo farming, and assumes you're going to have probably a fighter thrall with you. There's not going to be a whole lot of offensive output on this one. I do still have the Attunement of Faith on board, which you do not need for this, the way I have this one built, but it is there. So just be aware of that. On this one, we're using the Mask of the Witch Doctor and the Azaharian 4-piece minus the head. So this is going to give us a plus 18 to our survival. We are also using the enhanced tools. So the enhanced tools give us a plus 15 as well. So what that's going to do for our stats is put us at 4 strength, because that's our dump stat again. 30 agility for the effortless leap. It doesn't really affect anything, but it gives us that nice defensive boost. We're at vitality 2, 0 in accuracy, 2 in grit. Encumbrance, we're up to 50, and then survival only has 34 in it, but we're plus 44 from all of the stuff that we have with. Typically this is a plus 39. Like I said, if you have the Attunement of Faith, it's a plus 5 survival boost, so you can use that to play around a little bit differently. But I built this out the way that I have it written down. that survival boost should be 39, which is still gets us to 73. So the tools that I've given this build offensively are the Blade of the Hawk, which is a agility boost, and Black Brewer's Fury, which is also an agility boost. So that's going to get us a +10 to agility, which gets us to Nimble Tumbler. So if we do have to fight, dodging is going to give us double armor, which is kind of nice. You slow roll, but the other option, if you need to fight, that I've put on here is Jevelsog's Prowl. If you're going to have to use a dagger, you might as well use a dagger that has a double bleed on it and get that bleed stacked up as fast as you can. So that doesn't really affect our other than not being able to fight in a plague cloud, which your aim with this build should be to get out of the plague anyway. It does give you a little bit of an ability to kill things. We're gonna kill it with daggers, but he is not a. This is not a fighting build in any capacity. But once we get that, we'll switch back and we'll just farm in the plague if we have to. So those are some builds you can use or not use, or I just wanted to show some proof of concept here and test out a little bit of the viability of this potentially in real game state. So there's a mage option as a healer, there's a fighter option, and there's an option as a farmer. Alrighty, that's going to wrap up this video here. If you found anything useful, or learned something new, or just want to find your way back for more Conan content, please leave a subscription or like, comment. Anything helps the channel grow, and we will see you in the next one.